In a league driven by stars, you expect your best players to perform day in, day out. But for these 7 guys, the last year has been disappointing at best. These are the players that need a bounce back season this year, or else.
That keeps the door open for Dallas.
Oh, look at that ball handling skill of Kyrie.
And he gets the reverse.
Kyrie Irving. For Kyrie, it's not so much what's been happening on the court that's been keeping him down. Since he left Boston in 2019, Kyrie's been an offensive masterclass. He's averaged 27.1 on a ridiculous 49-40-91 split. The man just cannot miss. But he's also been a part of numerous off-court controversies and the most embarrassing flameout of a super team that we have ever seen. Nobody can say Kyrie's not a winner. He always stepped up in the biggest moments, including that shot in the 2016 finals.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
But that was 7 years ago. What's he done in the playoffs since then? He's burned bridges with 2 teams and completely sunk his value among NBA execs. You can't say he's toxic because everyone in the league seems to love him. But for the last 6 seasons since he's left LeBron, he's done nothing on the biggest stage. Last season, he didn't even make the playoffs. He joined Luka on the Mavericks to form the scariest offensive backcourt in the league, maybe of all time. The Mavs were a 4 seed when Kyrie came to Dallas. They ended the season an 11 seed. Can Kyrie and Luka figure out their flow this season?
In play, and it's tipped into the backcourt. Luka beats McDaniels to it, and now he's got it in the backcourt. Up ahead to Kyrie. He stops. He fakes a shot. Now Luka going back to Kyrie. A pump fake. Steps to the defense. Lost the ball.
Because if they can, look out NBA. These 2 offensive icons could be impossible to defend. But Kyrie is definitely in a better situation than his former teammate.
Sitting at home watching right now. Step back jump shot, Kate. Harden, pure.
James Harden. Harden's postseason struggles have been well documented, and they were on full show this season. In one game, he'll tie his playoff career high despite being a couple years past his prime. Then a few days later, he'll drop 9 points in an embarrassing Game 7 blowout.
James Harden was so awful, so bad, he should actually shave his beard so he could hide his identity. That's how bad he was.
Give James credit. He's done an incredible job of extending his prime a few years as a bona fide point guard. What he's got with Embiid is perfect for both players. It would be crazy if he messed that up, right?
He said it again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of again.
Right. Now he's on an expensive contract that no one can trade for, playing for a team managed by a guy he hates. This is the 3rd time with 3 teams that he's forced his way out of a good situation. So sure, bouncing back from a playoff loss would be helpful to his legacy. But more than that, he needs to shake the stigma of a quitter who hops from team to team. Does that mean he comes crawling back to Philly? Does that mean he just doesn't do this again? We're not sure, but he needs to figure this out. Otherwise, this is what he'll be remembered for, instead of all the incredible on-court feats he's pulled off. As much as Kyrie and Harden's off-court stunts have tarnished their legacy, they're at least destined for the Hall of Fame. The next guy, not so much.
Springs out and throws it down!
Ben Simmons. Once upon a time, Ben Simmons was the hottest under 25 player in the league. He was a game changer on defense. His shooting woes were offset by his ridiculous playmaking. His potential was there. He could have been a star. And then the Hawks series happened.
Simmons, they cleared out for him. Backing his way in. Spins on Gallinari. Gives it up. Oh, he was right there. And a foul.
The top-seeded Sixers fell to the huge underdog in the Hawks, led by Trae Young. Ben Simmons couldn't hit a free throw, and he became so scared to get fouled, he started passing up wide-open layups. The rest of the story plays out like a staged drama. He refused to play for the Sixers. Morey didn't budge, and then he finally got traded after becoming the most fined player in history. Last year, he finally came back, and it wasn't great. He averaged 7, 6, and 6 while struggling to get minutes and slipping defensively. The Nets only made the playoffs because they had KD and Kyrie for the first half of the season, and then in that playoff series, they got swept by, you guessed it, the Sixers. To top it off, he didn't even play that series because of a back issue. You can't write this stuff. The Nets are in a pretty good place as a franchise. Michael Bridges might be a legitimate star, and they have tons of draft capital. But they're also paying Simmons $40 million to do what exactly? At least, that's what we thought until we saw him unleashed in the preseason. If Simmons is back to form and Bridges outplays last year, how high can this team go? Simmons might be on the right track, but he's only 27. A lot of this game is mental. Once you get shaken, it's hard to bounce back. But if he can, we might finally see that potential realized. While the 2021 Sixers-Hawks series was a low point for Simmons, it was a high point for the next player, which might be the problem. Trae Young. In the last 2 years, Trae Young has led the league in total points once and total assists both years. He's a career 26-9 and one of the rare superstars who suits up pretty much every night. Trae led one of the all-time underdog playoff pushes in 2021, where he took the lowly Hawks to the conference finals. Since then, he hasn't done much. The Murray trade last offseason was supposed to revitalize the Hawks, but they were just as mediocre as before. Trae still gets his stats, but how much of that is actually helping his team? It's sometimes hard to tell if a player is just that much better than his teammates, or if his stats are just misleading. Now that we're 5 years into Trae's career, it's time for him to prove he's a legitimate superstar, not just a stat padding highlight reel. These next few seasons are gonna be defining for Trae's career. Can he elevate the Hawks to a higher status, or are his teammates just that bad? That last question is the big one, because maybe the best thing for Trae's legacy would be to ask out. Maybe he needs to bounce back with a new team. Trae's postseason track record might not be great, but at least he's won something, unlike the next guy on our list.
Towns for the tie. Banked it in. And we're headed overtime.
Karl Anthony Towns. The annual GM survey was just released. One of the questions asked is, if you were starting a franchise today and you could sign any player in the NBA, who would it be? Nikola Jokic won with 33% of the votes. You know who won that award in back-to-back years in 2016 and 2017? Karl Anthony Towns. Imagine how disappointing those GMs would be. For his career, he's 23-11 and probably the best shooting center of all time. He does everything you'd want a modern center to do. Score inside, hit some threes on pick and pops, rebound, and protect the rim. But none of that translates to wins. The Timberwolves made their first playoffs in 14 years in 2018, the only year Jimmy Butler was in town. They've made the playoffs both of the last 2 seasons, behind the might of the emerging Anthony Edwards. Last season, the Wolves might have had their best season since Kevin Garnett left, and Towns only played 29 games. The franchise made a colossal mistake in trading for Gobert. That trade will go down as one of the biggest highway robberies of the century. But is that their biggest issue? It's clear that Edwards is the face of the franchise going forward. It's also clear that Towns will never live up to the hype he had 6 years ago. They never won with him as their best player. But if he can transform himself into a fearsome secondary player, the Timberwolves might be scary next season. The next player on our list has a legacy that's pretty much already set, but he needs to bounce back if his team wants to win another title.
Middleton with 2. Middleton, you bet! He got it with .5 to go.
Khris Middleton. During the Bucks' run from 2019 to 2022, Khris was the ideal number 2 beside Giannis. He can pass, defend, rebound pretty well. He can create his own shot, and when Giannis is doubled, he's a knockdown shooter. And more importantly, he is a guaranteed point at the free throw line, something Giannis is not. He's been in the league since 2012, steadily improving every year until he became a first-time All-Star at 27 years old. In 2022, Khris's playoff injury might have cost the Bucks another title, but that's part of the game. He'd live to see another day. But after last season, are we sure his prime isn't just gone? Khris has only played 33 games, averaging a measly 24 minutes per game. His percentages were way down, only scoring 15 points per game. If Khris is done, how much of a shot do the Bucks have at another title? We are pretty confident Khris is going to bounce back in a big way this season. First off, he stepped up big in last year's playoffs after Giannis went down, averaging 24 points per game and just red hot from deep. He'll also be playing alongside Damian Lillard now, who's officially in his best situation to date. Khris's offensive burden will go way down, allowing him to be a deadly spot-up shooter and a defensive record. Now the big question, if Khris bounces back and the Bucks win a few more rings, could he be a Hall of Famer? Could he be a Hall of Famer is always a tough question to answer when the guy's still in the league. And it's one we never thought we'd be asking about the final player on our list.
And Zion takes it away. Off to the races. Oh my goodness gracious. Joe, what are we seeing? We are seeing a...
Zion Williamson. Zion was supposed to be the next icon. He was the most hyped prospect since LeBron 15 years before. Sure, he didn't rebound as much as you'd like, and his defense left things to be desired. But you could argue no one played the way he did on the offensive side of the ball. The moment he stepped on the court, he was one of the best offensive players in the league. He averaged 27 points per game his second season, and this past year, he led the Pelicans to a #1 seed for a short time. But in that incredible rookie season, he played 24 games. After his breakout All-Star 2021 campaign, he missed the entire next year. And when he ended up being limited to 29 games this season, the Pelicans fell from #1 all the way out of the playoff picture. Zion has absolutely nothing to prove about his play. Everyone knows he's one of the best scorers in the league, and he proved that those high stats can translate to winning. But can he stay on the court? If he doesn't, he might go down as one of the all-time draft busts. He's played 114 games in 4 years. It doesn't matter how good you are if you can't suit up. Joel Embiid proved after missing his first 2.5 years in the league that players can bounce back after missing a lot of games early. Can Zion? If he does, sky's the limit. Can the Pelicans win the title? Can Zion win MVP? Will we look back on his first 4 seasons as just a weird blip? Only time will tell. Do you think these 7 players can bounce back? How far can Zion take the Pelicans if he's healthy? Let us know in the comments, then watch this video next on Christian Wood bouncing back as the perfect fit for the Lakers. Listen to The Wrong Opinion, Useless NBA Trivia, and Garbage Rankings for more NBA content.